Hello and welcome back to In Your Ward, TVC 22's new show where every week me here at TVC 22 will be exploring each of the different councillors throughout the city and municipality of Clarence-Rockland. Done 5 so far. This week is in English as we did French last week. So I'll be catching up with the councillor for Ward number 6, Mr. Councilor Simard. As usual, for these episodes, we're going to spend the first half going through a little bit more personal stuff about the councillor himself before getting on to something a little bit more topical after. So if you pop on over here, we'll say hi to Chris. How are you, Chris?
Good. How are you doing, Thomas?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. Thank you for popping out and seeing us. What I love today is the fact that we're not wearing big winter coats.
That's true.
I mean, there's still an abundance of snow on the ground, but you know what? It's the first one I've done where it's not been like minus 25. So you pulled a good straw here, and I very much appreciate. I know Saint Pascal is where we are today. It's a very French community, so I very much appreciate you doing this one in English. We'll be back to do a French one in a few weeks' time. There's no qualms about that. But yeah. So how are you doing? How's things in your life at the moment?
Oh, pretty busy. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, it's busy on the work front, I take it.
Oh yeah. No, it's crazy. We do construction, and this year is going to be one of our record years for sure.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
I was going to say, well, with you working in construction, how did the pandemic, how did 2020 treat you? Did it sort of give you a big dip in work at some points, or did it almost stay the same?
No, not even stable. It skyrocketed.
Seriously?
So usually we do about 225 houses a year that we frame the frame of the house there, everything that's lumber. And this year we'll be close to 300 homes.
So what for 2021?
For 2021.
So there was an increase in 2020 as well?
There was.
Is this because more people are trying to buy homes at the moment?
That's what's happening, is everybody that's in condos are trying to go into single family or townhomes or having their own space so they don't need to share with anybody. And it's been crazy this year.
So not to call the pandemic a good thing, but on a business front, work front for you, I mean, it was just a boom.
No, us we were very, very lucky, very fortunate. We're having all kinds of people joining us now, cooks, waiters, waitresses that never had any experience, and now they're trying their hand into construction because we never stopped. We were fortunate enough. So no, thank God for that, because we were able to help a whole bunch of other people.
And how are these cooks, waitresses, waiters, etc., who've moved over to this industry? How are they faring? I mean, was there a lot of teaching involved?
Well, they start at the bottom, so they're laborers, so they pick up lumber. That's pretty much it. They pick up lumber, they bring in the lumber they need. They go on courses for like forklift drivers and stuff like that, if they have experience. Kind of, some of them used to work Canadian Tire stuff. So they can cross over pretty easily.
And how long have you been in construction yourself?
Myself, it's been, at 12 years old, I started working at a family business. Cool. So from every summer and weekends until 18. And then after that, did a bit of mechanics.
Dabble in something with a motor.
That's it. Broke, hurt my shoulders. And went back to kind of school, went as a home inspector. And then my dad, his business was booming, the family business was booming. So then I started working with him maybe 18 years ago.
So he dragged you back in then, did he?
Yeah. Well, yeah, so the amount of people we're at, we're almost at 100 employees now. Sub-trades. So we're pretty busy, so he couldn't have done that all by himself. So me, my brothers, uncles, cousin, it's really a family business. And then there's the people from the outside also there.
So where is the business based?
In Saint Pascal.
It is based here?
Yeah.
And is that where you sort of, was the bulk of your work done locally, or do you go as far as like Ottawa? Or?
Actually, we don't really do locally because there's not enough volume for us. So we do from Stittsville to Bank Street. So we have 6 sites between those two. And we got one site that we did 50-some homes over in Embrun this year, or Castleman, this year.
And how long in advance are people sort of booking up your time and up your skills? I mean, as you said, this year is booming. Do you sort of know every site you're working on for the rest of the year, or are you still taking on board new projects?
We just signed up 2 big companies there. So they told us, well, this year they're planning on doing 500. How much can you do? So then we said, well, we can do 200 for you, 100 for you, and that's all we can do. So we're we hire more people, and that's pretty much what you can do.
And you mentioned there about a little bit earlier about school and going into doing home inspections and stuff like that. Is that something that you've taken on board with the construction company? Has that allowed you to get a bit of a different insight?
Actually, not really. I just wanted, so I had the experience, and I wanted on paper like a proof to tell people, like, listen, it's not just because I know my stuff. I went to school for it also. So then I didn't. After that. I did the home inspections for a bit, but the family business was calling me, so we went that route.
Well, it must be lovely to get back into the family business, though. I mean, they're a bit of a dying breed, these kind of businesses that are run, operated for generations by families. Oh, yeah. Is it something that you're likely to take over then, or have you taken over already?
No. Well, I'm in management, but still, we haven't talked about it. I don't think my dad will ever retire, but. Like I said, we're a couple brothers, cousin, uncles, so we all work well together. We're lucky to have a family that's able to do that, because some people can't. But no, it's fun.
I was hoping for a little bit of family drama, and we can set up one of those reality TV shows based in.
It's not going to happen, to tell you the truth.
But anyway, we're here today because mainly you are a councillor for the municipality of Clarence-Rockland. Obviously, we're in your ward here, Ward 6. Can you tell us a little bit about your past within the council? When did you first run?
I first ran in 2018.
Mm-hmm. So it's your first one?
It's my first run at it. Prior to that, my wife was the councillor for Ward 6. And she had other projects she wanted to go do and all that. And she said, well, I don't feel like I'm going to run again. So, well, I'll try my hand at it. And so my wife is the extrovert of the couple. I'm the introvert. So everything I usually do is behind scenes. Okay. So it's very, very different for me being like in the public and people see you and you have to...
A camera shoved in your face, for example.
That's like very difficult for me.
So is there any sort of mismanagement of things at home? Is the wife always saying, oh, why are you doing this way? Or do you think you guys just have different approaches and that's respected?
It is. And it's fun because we were sounding boards. So she would come back from council meetings and she would tell me about what happened and all that. And then I would listen and say my opinion. Then the same thing happens to me after the meeting or something like that. I tell her, well, now since they're all like directly televised, sometimes she's going to be listening to it as I'm doing it, and then after that she knows what's going on and saying her piece of it. And then we both take what we want of what the other one says, and we make our decisions towards that. So it's pretty much kind of a team anyway, so it's really neat.
So is it because she ran that you had an interest in going as well, or is there something like a little dabble in local politics and helping out your community? Is that something that you've always been sort of veered towards yourself?
I never really wanted to be a politician, but when my wife had a couple projects that interest me, and I said, well, I want to finish those projects that she started. And then I'm like, well, where is all my money going to? That's really what I want to see.
Especially like your tax money in that.
That's it. Yeah. So why isn't my street done? Because my street was so rough. Why isn't the neighbor's street not done? Why is the ditches always dirty or something like that? So then you notice where the money's going and all that. That helped me, that opened my eyes quite a bit.
And that gave you an interest, as you're saying, into actually being able to influence that and help out your community. Being someone that's lived here, obviously, your entire life, and as you say, holding St. Pascal to heart. Yeah. How do you find your experience in construction and your experience within the community, as well as obviously your past experience of seeing your wife firsthand doing it? How do you think that's influenced your time on council so far?
It helped me quite a bit because, well, the mayor gave me, there's no committee right now. We're working with the administration to do a committee for infrastructures. So I am in charge of that section of the City of Clarence-Rockland. But it's the same thing. Construction's construction. So you get bids, you get people that do shoddy work, people that do good work. So you just complain or you just praise when it's good work, and that's what we do.
Is it exactly what you imagined? Do you have the influence that you were hoping you could have to a certain extent, or do you find it frustrating? Is there a lot of red tape you have to go through?
It's really frustrating because usually if I'm on site, like my sites, and I tell somebody to do something, it gets done. Over here, if I tell somebody to go to do something, well, that guy has to talk to that guy, has to talk to that guy, has to talk to, okay, now I can do it. Or so.
Has that been one of the most frustrating things for you on council?
It has.
Continuously coming back and asking for new reports on things.
Well, it's mostly what's more frustrating is that when the residents are asking me questions, and then I'm asking somebody, but because you have to go through the ranks, it's not their fault. I'm asking the director for the answer. Well, he has to go down the line and find the answer.
Yeah.
Then it goes back up the line, and then it gives it to me. So it's really frustrating for the residents not getting an answer right away from me or from other councillors. That's what mostly frustrates me, is that, because I'm used to being, if there's an issue, let's fix it. That's it. That's all, we're done. But here is like, well, now we have to be patient, and we don't have the money for it, or I don't have the answer for you. We'll have to do a study for it, or stuff like that.
And are these kind of frustrations something you experienced prior to being councillor, and now you're on the other side of it?
It is.
Do you think being on council then has given you a greater appreciation? Do you think if you were off council again, you'd be a little bit, I don't know, less harsh, say, on the councillor who can't give you an answer?
Probably, I would. It really opened my eyes. It really opened my eyes that, okay, well, there's a reason why we're not doing it. It's not because they're playing with the money. It's because we don't have the money. So it's really, that's what I see.
And looking at your own personal ambitions, of course, I mean, this has been my tail end question for the first part with all your colleagues so far. We are in the year 2021. Last year was almost a little bit of a write-off. It wasn't, you guys weren't able to go off and actually do all the projects you wanted to do. So it almost feels like you lost a year because you were just battling this pandemic. One more year left until municipal elections again. Do you see yourself running again? Do you have any ambitions to remain on council, or maybe even take a step higher at some point?
No, if I continue, it's still going to be as councillor. I cannot, I don't have the time to be a good mayor, or so if anything would be, I'd go back as councillor or put my name back in the hat for councillor. But my decision is not 100% made yet, because I do have lots of projects on the go and to see where I'm going for. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm going to tell you now.
And do you know if your wife is contemplating going again next year? We're going to see a family little battle there next year.
Well, no, I can't talk for her, so I don't know. But you never know.
Okay, well, Kristen, thank you very much for this little insight into your life, a little bit more behind the scenes. We're going to take a little break right now, and Councillor Simard and I are going to just pop down the road, actually, to discuss a little bit about infrastructure and the building of roads. It might sound a little bit dry, but I'm sure that Chris can spice it up a little bit for us. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of episode 6 here of our show in the wards. We are, of course, still in Ward 6, speaking to Councillor for Ward 6, Mr. Christian Simard. And as stated at the end of the first half of the show, the second half is a topical issue. And today we're touching very much on Christian's construction and infrastructure knowledge as we embark a little bit on some of the big taxpayer costs for the city. We're stood on Chemin du Lac. And before we dive into this road specifically, and when I say dive in, I mean if I can get my feet out of the mud for a second, let's talk about roads and infrastructure in themselves, because they are the biggest ticket item when it comes to budget, right? They are so expensive for the taxpayer. It's what really determines how high the tax percentage is going to be. So what is the reason councils pump so much money and have such a high interest in resurfacing and redoing roads?
Roads are the biggest complaint I get as a councillor.
Yeah.
If there's something wrong, Saint Pascal is a big community. Lots of, we're all far apart, so lots of roads, but that's all we've got pretty much. We've got the community center, the church, postal office, that's pretty much it. But roads is what people do not have something to say about. It's what's going to cost them the most money. If the roads are bad, they're late for work, it costs them money. The roads are bad, they have a misalignment on their car, they have to realign the car, it costs them money. So it's really an issue.
So one of those for, to give people a little bit of perspective about it, when budget and tax season comes around and you see how much your percentage is going up in terms of how much you're going to have to pay that year, and you see how much is put on roads, it's actually an investment. It's people investing their tax dollar into the road to be able to ensure that, as you say, they're not late for work and they don't have issues with their cars. As I stated at the start of this, we are stood in Chemin du Lac.
Yeah.
It's a Lac Road, du Lac Road, there
Yeah.
you go in English. Talk to us a little bit about Chemin du Lac, because I lived in the Falkland Islands for a couple of years and this road is very reminiscent of the roads I see down there.
So Chemin du Lac was a paved road, asphalt road, that wasn't touched for probably over 30 years. Some portions were done, but it was really it was pitiful. So I actually have videos of following a bus with my kids on the bus, because I had to go pick them up, going 15 kilometers an hour on Chemin du Lac.
And that's because the bus was forced to go that slow, was it?
That's it. It was so rough. The potholes were so big that you couldn't go faster than that. It was horrible. It was so dangerous that the city, it wasn't even planned, and the city had to pulverize the road back into gravel road because for liability reasons, so we wouldn't get sued for somebody getting killed even because it was so rough.
And talk to us a little bit about the different kinds of road surfaces there, because you mentioned asphalt. It is not asphalt now, is it?
No, it isn't. Right now it's gravel. Well, it's the asphalt grounded up and the gravel that was underneath that is mixed together. That's what we have right now. So you have asphalt, gravel, or surface treatment. There is something called also scratch coat, but it's just a top layer of asphalt on top of existing asphalt also.
So there's going to be, the reason why we are stood on this particular road and we're talking about this topic is because there is a big investment coming into redoing this road, isn't it? So talk to us about how much money the city is about to put into this road and what are you doing with it?
Okay, so we have 5.1 kilometers of road to be done. So from the south end of du Lac to the north end until baseline. It's going to cost $1.1 million just to do surface treatment. If we would have wanted to have real asphalt, it would have cost 1.7.
Okay.
With that, we're going to be changing the culvert that's over there, and everything. When we're going to do it, well, it all depends when the water table lowers and all that. When we do to changing that culvert, because we have to do the culvert before we start doing the road surface.
So the culvert down there, why is it so important to replace that one?
Right now, it is past his lifetime expectancy, and you don't want to wait too long. That you create a sinkhole or something like that. And
you mentioned that the road hadn't had much done on it in over 3 decades there. What was the reason why this road got into such a state of disarray and why it was left untreated for so long?
So in the past, they had a plan of how to do the roads, but the plan was whoever yells the loudest would have the road done. So the councillor would decide who would have which road done. Now it's a different process. It's a 10-year plan. So there's a consultant that comes and tells you, ask you questions. Well, how many people goes in on the road? How many people will
like that?
So how many people will travel on the road? How many people lives on the road? Is it a main artery? Is it a collector road that other little street goes to and stuff like that? So with what the councillor tells them
So it used to be a little bit more of a free-for-all is what you're saying, essentially. Yes. So councillors would just come up and, as you say, in a council meeting, shout the loudest about the road that they're probably being shouted about, as you say, because it's the thing that has the most complaints.
That's it.
Whereas now there's a little bit more of a constructed plan. When was this 10-year plan put in place?
In 2014 or 15, I think.
It was the 2014 council then, was it?
They put it in.
So to the 10-year plan, am I right in saying that's the asset management plan?
It is. It's
okay.
part of it.
Part of it.
Yes, because the asset management plan is it's everything that's an asset to the city. But every city's asset management is different a little bit. Like some cities will say, well, ditches are an asset, but other people know it's not an asset, it's drainage for your asset, which is the road. So it all depends on which city you're talking to about it. So us, the ditches are not part of our asset management. The road is.
So what is the benefit of having an asset management plan like this in place?
It's, you know what's coming up. It's being proactive instead of being reactive. So that way you can manage your money better. You know, so with the reserves and all that, you know, well, I'll put a little bit more money aside, put a little bit more money aside. Like last year we put $211,000 in the reserve, and the year before that was 100 and something. So that's going to come back every year, because that went with it goes with your tax hike. So that comes back every year. So we can do a little bit more, just a little bit more. The problem is right now in Clarence-Rockland is we need pretty much an extra $3 million to be doing every road.
Okay.
So we can be proactive on roads that are in so-so condition, fixing, but we have to be reactive like we did with Du Lac, that was so bad and so much liability to the city that we have to change it completely.
And in terms of the priority of roads, we were talking a little bit earlier off camera, and you gave me a metaphor about oil changes with a car. Can you talk us a little bit into how, maybe utilising that kind of metaphor again, about how the city prioritises which road actually needs to be resurfaced? Like, why is Du Lac so important right now? You're saying it's at the end of its life. Has it not been at this end of its life for a year now, 2 years?
So Du Lac, Landry, Edwards is all roads that weren't on a 10-year plan, because they are so much past their lifetime expectancy that it's going to take all the money to fix it. So if we'd say, oh, let's do those ones, then we wouldn't have money to fix the ones that are partially deteriorating, that we'd have to fix.
Such as ones within, say, the actual city of Clarence-Rockland that have an abundance of potholes on them now. You wouldn't be able to fix those potholes because you're spending all the money on doing this. So what pot of money do you have to do the roads at the moment if you're spending 1.1 million on just this one?
So 1.1 million, that's with the culvert. So that's like 2 budgets together.
Okay.
So we have almost 3 million right now. So if we do have between 5 and 6 million per year in roads, we'd be able to be on top of our game all the time.
Yeah.
But so since we have a shortfall that way, we have to really manage, be careful what we do. So what happened with Du Lac, since it wasn't on the 10-year plan and it was in a bad spot, we had to, when we pulverized it, well, everybody that was living on this road, we sent them a letter, and I asked the administration to make sure that we say it's temporarily in the gravel, because these people bought their houses on an asphalt road. It wasn't the best asphalt road, but it was still an asphalt road.
Asphalt nonetheless.
That's it. So then we're bringing back, we don't want to give them a lower service for their money. We want to give them the same service for their money. So the next best thing was a resurface treatment for Du Lac.
And we talk about the 10-year plan here and the fact that this road and a couple of others weren't on it. When it was created in 2010, why weren't these roads put on there, and why has it taken so long to actually take a consideration for them?
The roads, that's what I was talking about earlier, is that the ones that are so badly out of shape, you would use all the money to resurface those ones. You wouldn't have any money to be able to take care of the ones that are slightly damaged.
But is it not worth having them on the plan anyway, even if you're not doing anything budgeting, trying to budget for them? Or you're saying they weren't on the plan at all?
They weren't on the plan at all. So right now we're in the process of reviewing the 10-year plan.
Yeah.
So it was done 5 years ago. And so the consultant talked to us and they say, so what's your vision?
Yeah.
Well, it was the first time the consultant was talking to the councillors 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago. So that was like brand new way of doing stuff and all that. So they kind of led what they wanted. So now with this council, we knew what the last one was. So now we're saying, well, no, listen, well, maybe we should have more roads on it to be able to plan more for the future, or something like that. Like Landry is in very, very bad shape going south, and it's not on there yet. But that's going to be the next one to be doing the same thing as what we did with Du Lac, going to gravel, and then it will have to be redone because it's such in a bad shape.
So as you say, this 10-year plan is not, hey, it came in 2014, 15, it's up until 2025. It's a living organism.
It's a live document that can be changed all the time.
Okay, and do you feel like there was enough changes to begin with, or is it something, because I know that these kind of asset management plans were introduced in Ontario around about 2012 as sort of like the norm and the standard for municipalities to start adopting. So do you think there was just like sort of this learning period for the municipality to figure out how to best utilize the plan?
I think so, but again, a plan is no good if you don't have any money. And
Very true.
Right now, we don't have the money, so we have to work with what we've got. So that's where we're at.
So what are some of the others? Because I mean, I was having a little dive into the asset management plan last night, and I see that there was something like 46% of the money allocated within the plan goes on roads. So what other things does the asset management plan actually encompass?
So it's everything that's buildings, parks, everything that is pretty much an asset to the municipality. Those are like when the consultant called a couple of weeks ago asking questions about, well, what do you feel about do you have enough parks? Yes, we do. Do you find that they're well maintained? And do you find, so my answers to those was, yes, they're well maintained, but I would look at having maybe the one on the river, expand on that, because there's so much potential on that one over there. And like people, we go have supper there and his family and all that, and there's people from every places of Clarence-Rockland.
Is that the one down in Clarence-Rockland that's close to the water treatment plant down there?
Yes, it is.
Oh, the stunning view down there. We were down there the other day actually, as I'm trying to find my bearings a little bit more in Clarence-Rockland. Bringing back around towards the end to this $1.1 million investment on this road here. What's the kind of timeline for it? When can residents expect to see some work cracking on?
Like I said, or when we talked off camera earlier, we have to wait till the watershed lowers a little bit because, like the breeding season for fishes and frogs and all that. So once those are passed by, we'll be able to do the culvert, which is over there, and then we'll be able to do the surface treatment after that. So by the end of summer, I hope to have something to be able to ride on.
Yeah, that or you're going to be getting many more complaints from the residents of St. Pascal.
True, but my job is to represent them, so it's just normal.
Absolutely. Well, Councilor Simard, thank you so much for coming out and chatting with us today. Really nice to actually come out and see. I mentioned at the start of one of the first episodes of trying to get down in the dirty stuff, what people were really interested in as councillors, and not just talk about roads, but they are, based on our conversation, they are a lot more important than I first cast my mind to. So I tip my hat and I say thank you very much for this chat today. And I thank you very much for catching this episode, which is number 6 of our show in the wards. As always, if you have a topic you want your councillor to be answering, then get back in touch with us. We're going through these first episodes now. We've got a couple left before we come back to the second round of interviews. I'll be back with Councilor Simard in about 8 or 9 weeks, having a French discussion at that time to be able to tackle something totally different. Won't be diving into his personal life anymore. I'll leave that on the side.
Thank you.
But I thank you very much for watching, and as always, get in touch if you want to hear anything. Bye.